Achieng had always been the kind of woman who turned heads, not just because of her beauty, but because of her brilliance. She was sharp, driven, and one of the best marketing executives in Nairobi. People admired her strength and ambition, but beneath all the success, Achieng still had a heart that believed in love. So when she met Kwame, everything changed. Kwame was charming in the kind of way that made you forget the world. He had a smile that made her laugh even when she didn't feel like it, and a quiet confidence that drew her in. But there was also something distant about him, something she couldn't quite touch. Still, Achieng chose to believe in their connection. The chemistry between them was electric, the conversations deep, and within months they were inseparable. It felt like love. It felt like forever. When Achieng found out she was pregnant, her heart nearly burst with joy. She imagined a life, their life, full of late-night cuddles, tiny clothes, soft cries, and Sunday morning pancakes with a baby on her hip. She told Kwame with hope in her eyes, expecting him to wrap her in love. His reaction was muted. He said all the right words, but something in his eyes was far away. She pushed the doubts aside. He just needs time, she told herself. But the joy didn't last long. Just 12 weeks into the pregnancy, Achieng woke up in pain. At the hospital, the doctor's words shattered her. She had miscarried. Her world collapsed in seconds. One moment, she was a mother-to-be. The next, she was holding nothing but grief. She reached out to Kwame, her hands trembling, needing comfort, needing him. But he didn't answer. Not that day, not the next. Days turned into weeks. Messages were left unread. Calls went straight to voicemail. Then, one day, she realized he had blocked her on everything. No call, no explanation, no goodbye, just silence. The pain wasn't just physical. It was a soul-deep kind of heartbreak. She had lost her baby, her future, and the man she thought would stand by her, all at once. Achieng lay awake night after night, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how someone who once held her so close could vanish like a ghost. She checked her phone 100 times, hoping he would come back with an apology, a message, anything, but there was nothing. Just the loud silence of someone who had decided she didn't matter anymore. And that was the moment something inside her broke, but not in the way Kwame expected. It was the start of a new fire, buried under the ashes of her grief. Because while he walked away without a word, Achieng's story was far from over. Achieng had never felt so alone in her life. After the miscarriage and Kwame's sudden disappearance, it felt like the world had gone quiet. No calls, no visits, just long days that blended into long, sleepless nights. Grief wrapped around her like a heavy coat she couldn't take off. She tried to be strong, but the truth was, she was breaking. Some mornings, it took everything just to get out of bed. She'd stare at her phone, hoping to see a message from him, an apology, something to make sense of it all. But there was nothing. The man who once held her hand and whispered promises had vanished without a trace, and all she had left were memories and a pain she didn't know how to carry. For a while, she let herself fall. She stopped replying to friends, skipped meals, and cried in the shower until her legs gave out. It felt unfair. How could someone go through so much and still be expected to smile at meetings or deliver reports at work? But deep down, a small voice inside her whispered, "This is not how your story ends." One night, sitting alone in her apartment, she opened her laptop and started looking up business programs. She didn't know what she was searching for. Maybe a distraction, maybe a lifeline. Then she found it. A leadership course for young professionals. Something about the word leadership stirred something in her. She applied without thinking twice. The program was tough. Long nights of reading, back-to-back assignments, presentations, exams. It pushed her to her limit, but it also gave her structure. It gave her a goal, a reason to wake up, and something to pour her heart into. Her pain didn't disappear, but now it had somewhere to go. It became her fuel. At work, she showed up earlier and stayed later. She took on projects no one else wanted and started to get noticed, not just for her talent, but for her grit. People whispered about how focused she was, how unstoppable. No one knew the storm she was walking through. She never told them. She didn't need to. One evening, while reviewing case studies at her kitchen table, she looked at herself in the mirror. There were dark circles under her eyes and her heart still ached. But there was something else too. Strength, fire. A woman rebuilding herself piece by piece. And in that moment, Achieng made a quiet promise. I will never let someone else decide my worth again. She started writing affirmations on sticky notes and placing them around her apartment, on her bathroom mirror, her laptop, even her fridge. You are enough. This pain will become your power. You're building something greater. Day by day, she believed it a little more. Grief had broken her, yes, but it had also revealed her. The girl who once cried herself to sleep was turning into a woman who refused to give up. She didn't need saving. She was saving herself. And though the wound still hurt, she was learning to walk with it, not as a weakness, but as proof that even after the deepest heartbreak, a woman like her, 2 years can change everything. For Achieng, those 2 years were nothing short of a transformation. The woman who had once cried herself to sleep was now a force. Grief had sharpened her. The heartbreak didn't disappear. It became the fire that pushed her to rise higher, work harder, and dream bigger. She didn't just survive, she leveled up in silence. After completing her business leadership program with top honors, Achieng dove even deeper into her work. Every campaign she touched turned into gold. She became known not just for her talent, but for her ability to lead with heart and fierce clarity. Slowly, whispers began to spread in the corporate world. Have you heard about Achieng? She's something else. And then came the call. A&N Global, one of the biggest and most respected firms in Africa, wanted her. They had a struggling subsidiary in Nairobi. The company had been losing clients. Morale was low, and leadership had failed. They needed someone sharp, bold, and unshakable. They needed someone who had been through the fire and could lead others out of it. They needed Achieng. When she got the offer, she didn't react right away. She read through the company documents, studied the names of the staff, and then, there it was, one name, a name she hadn't seen in years but would never forget. Kwame. He worked there, still in middle management, still in Nairobi, probably with no idea who he was about to answer to. She sat back in her chair, stunned for a moment. Of all the places, of all the companies, life had brought her full circle. But this time, she wasn't the girl begging for answers. She was the boss walking in with power, purpose, and peace. Achieng didn't take the job out of revenge. She didn't need that. She took it because she had earned it. She was ready to lead. And if the universe had chosen this moment for her to cross paths with her past, so be it. She wasn't afraid of ghosts anymore. Her first day at the company felt surreal. As she walked into the office building, now hers to run, memories tried to creep in, but she didn't let them. She wore a sleek black suit, head held high, eyes focused straight ahead. The receptionist smiled nervously. People whispered. No one knew who she really was yet. Inside her new corner office, she looked out the window and breathed deeply. She remembered the version of herself that had been left behind, broken and bleeding. And now, here she was, strong, whole, and in charge. Not because she wanted to show off, but because she had earned every step of this climb. Somewhere in the building, Kwame was probably joking with co-workers, clueless that the woman he once ghosted was now sitting in the director's chair. That moment would come soon enough. For now, Achieng just smiled to herself. The girl who once begged for closure had become the woman no one saw coming. The rise wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, but it was powerful, and she was just getting started. The boardroom was filled with chatter and laughter. Kwame leaned back in his chair, joking with a few co-workers about their underperforming department and the new boss who was supposed to fix everything. No one knew who the new regional director was yet, only that she was arriving today. Probably just another outsider who'll give speeches and leave the real work to us, Kwame said, half laughing, half bitter. Everyone laughed along, not knowing how close they were to silence. Then, the door opened. In walked Achieng. She didn't say a word at first. She didn't need to. Her presence said everything. She was dressed in a fitted cream blazer, heels that echoed confidence with each step, and eyes that had clearly seen more than anyone in that room could imagine. She didn't walk in like she was proving a point. She walked in like she was the point. Kwame turned toward the door, mid-laugh. When he saw her, his smile dropped so fast, it looked like time paused just to watch him fall. His mouth opened slightly, like he wanted to speak, but no sound came out. His skin paled, his body stiffened. For a second, he looked like a man who had just seen a ghost. But this wasn't a ghost. It was the woman he had loved, hurt, and ghosted. And now, she was his boss. Achieng scanned the room slowly, eyes calm and unreadable. When her gaze landed on Kwame, she didn't flinch. She didn't pause. She didn't blink. Just a short, sharp nod. Exactly the kind of acknowledgement you'd give any other employee. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice smooth and steady. "I'm Achieng Otieno, your new regional director. I'm here to turn things around, not just on paper, but in results. Let's get started." She moved straight into business, performance stats, missed targets, restructuring plans. She called on managers, took notes, asked questions. When she called on Kwame to explain his team's poor numbers, she didn't even blink. "Kwame, what led to this drop in Q2 performance?" she asked, completely professional, her tone cool but firm. Kwame stumbled over his words, trying to sound composed. But it was obvious. He was shaken. Everyone in the room could feel the shift. The once loud boardroom was now dead silent, like the air itself had stopped moving. No one else knew their story, but they felt something. A tension, a history, a power dynamic no one could put their finger on. Achieng never brought up the past. She didn't need to. Her silence screamed louder than any confrontation ever could. The meeting ended, and Achieng walked out first, back straight, shoulders relaxed, untouched. Kwame stayed behind, staring at the door she had just walked through. The same door he had once slammed shut with silence. But this time, he wasn't the one doing the leaving. This time, he was the one left behind. Kwame had never felt pressure like this before. Since Achieng became regional director, everything changed. Deadlines were tighter, expectations were higher, and for the first time in his career, he couldn't hide behind charm or excuses. His poor performance caught up with him, and fast. 1 month after she took over, he was officially demoted. His title was gone, his office downsized, and the respect he once enjoyed slowly slipped away. The whispers started. People noticed. He felt exposed, small, and for the first time, regretful. It took him days to build the courage, but finally he knocked on her office door. Achieng looked up from her laptop. "Come in," she said, voice calm as always. Her tone wasn't cold, but it wasn't warm either. It was neutral, professional, like talking to someone she barely remembered, and that made it hurt more. He stepped in slowly, nervous. "Can we talk privately?" She closed her laptop and nodded. "You have 5 minutes." Kwame sat down, his hands shaking slightly. For a second, he couldn't even meet her eyes. He took a breath. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," he began, voice low, "for what I did back then, for leaving you when you needed someone. I was scared. I didn't know how to handle it." Achieng didn't say a word. She just looked at him, face unreadable. "I think about it all the time," he continued, his voice cracking slightly. "Blocking you like that, disappearing. It was wrong. You didn't deserve that. I was a coward." A silence filled the room, heavy, uncomfortable. Kwame looked at her, hoping for something, a reaction, a tear, maybe even forgiveness. But Achieng just leaned back in her chair and gave a soft, knowing smile. Then she spoke, slowly and clearly. "You blocked me when I needed you most," she said. "Now watch how I unblocked my potential." Kwame blinked, stunned. The words hit like a punch to the chest. She stood up, signaling the conversation was over. "I wish you growth," she added politely but firmly. "But we don't need to revisit the past. This is a workplace. Let's keep it that way." He nodded, humiliated, and quietly walked out. After that, things changed even more, but not for Kwame. It was Achieng who truly began to shine. Her leadership was bold but fair. She mentored staff, turned failing teams around, and won back major clients. People started talking about her story, how she rose from heartbreak and silence to lead with strength and grace. One day, a junior staff member whispered, "Did you know she went through something really painful before all this? And look at her now." Others nodded, inspired. She became a symbol of power, of healing, of quiet revenge that didn't come from hurting someone back, but from choosing yourself instead. Achieng never had to embarrass Kwame publicly. She didn't have to bring up the past in meetings or punish him with petty moves. Her success was the answer. Her presence was the response. And as Kwame watched from the sidelines, Achieng could have just enjoyed her new title, her corner office, and the respect she had earned. But something inside her knew she was meant for more. She remembered the quiet pain, the nights she cried alone, the days she felt invisible. She hadn't just climbed out of a dark place. She had built something there. And now, it was time to reach back and help others do the same. She started small. During a team meeting one afternoon, she noticed a young intern who looked withdrawn, almost like she was carrying something heavy. Achieng invited her for coffee. Over time, the intern opened up. She had been left by a partner after a miscarriage. The pain was raw, familiar. Achieng didn't just listen. She understood. That moment lit a fire in her heart. Achieng began quietly offering mentorship to women in the company who had faced emotional pain, whether from relationships, loss, or simply being overlooked. She created a safe space where they could talk, heal, and grow without shame. It was never about pity. It was about power. Soon after, she launched a formal program and named it Power from Pain. It was more than a mentorship initiative. It was a movement. Women from different backgrounds, HR assistants, IT interns, junior marketers, joined and began sharing their own stories. Achieng brought in therapists, leadership coaches, and even financial advisors. She wanted every woman to feel not just emotionally healed, but professionally unstoppable. Her office became a hub of transformation. Every week, more women came forward. Some cried, some just sat in silence. But all of them left stronger. And slowly, a culture shifted. People started realizing that brokenness doesn't mean weakness, and silence can be strength. One day, a journalist from a major media house reached out. She had heard whispers of Achieng's story, her rise from heartbreak, and her bold mentorship initiative. They sat down for an interview, and for the first time, Achieng shared it all. The love, the loss, the silence, the rise. The article went viral in just days. Women from all over the country flooded her inbox with messages. "Thank you for telling my story. I feel seen for the first time. I thought I was alone." Achieng wasn't just a boss anymore. She was a beacon, a reminder that the worst thing that happens to you can become the reason you change everything. In the final scene, she stood in front of a fresh group of interns, all young women full of hope, fear, and potential. They watched her closely, knowing her story now. They didn't just see a woman in power. They saw themselves in her. She looked around the room and smiled softly, her voice calm but full of fire. "When they leave you broken," she said, "rebuild in silence, then walk back in as their boss." And in that moment, every girl in that room believed they could do exactly that.